Hello! Today I have something pretty cool to show you. So, an in-game camera without the use of any mods. So this is pretty cool, and I would love to show you it. So, the way this works is you are just going to find a spot. So for instance, I have built this little tower here for demonstration purposes, and you're going to want to set up the camera. So I'm going to get to the best spot possible. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and go out a little bit here as well. So what you have to do is you have to set up the camera, because this is like an old school camera. So we're going to just set up the tripod, and then we're going to set the camera there. Then we have our camera set up and ready to take this picture of our castle. So then you just have to stand behind the camera. You don't need to be an F5, but looks pretty nice. And then you just fire a splash potion. And then we'll go to the photo development room, and you will see that we now have a photo of our tower. So this is pretty damn cool, and just for the record, it doesn't just work in one location. You can, for instance, go over here and place a new camera down like that and take another picture, and you'll see that it will take a picture of the flag instead. So yeah, it works anywhere. It doesn't just work for that one location, and it will take a lovely little picture for you. Now, how this works is actually quite simple. Basically, all we're doing is we are looking at what is in front of the player, and we're turning it into a map. That much is probably quite obvious though. So the very first thing that it is doing is it is looking to see if a player is standing behind this camera setup. So for instance, if I just douse myself in splash potion here, you'll see that nothing actually happens, and that's because I'm not standing behind a camera. But if I am standing behind a camera, you'll see that I am teleported, and then teleported back behind the camera. Now, accomplishing all of this is actually fairly easy. So down here we just have a command block which is trying to clear the player of speed, and when it does, then this command is triggered. What this command does is it clones the 2 blocks in front of the player to this coordinate. So for instance, if I were to place 2 fence posts here, and I used the splash potion, you'll see that these 2 fence posts get cloned to this red spot, okay? Now, once that's been cloned, what's going to happen is we're going to have a test for blocks command. So it's going to compare these 2 blocks here with these 2 blocks here. If the 2 blocks in front of you are not the fence and then the playhead, then the test for blocks command will fail because the two regions aren't the same. But if they are the same, so if I just get rid of that and place playhead there, and I splash myself with a potion, you'll see that it clones this first, obviously, then it compares them, and then it comes back positive because they are the same. Once it has been confirmed that a camera is indeed in front of the player, what happens is the landscape in front of the player will be analysed. So how this works is about 40 blocks away from the player, a 50 by 50 by 10 area is analysed. Next, we need to convert the landscape into a map acceptable format, and we do this by rotation. So this is actually an idea by Octagon, I believe he's called. And basically what he did was he showed you how to rotate a structure around. And this uses the same principle, except we're just rotating on a different axis. How the rotation works is pretty straightforward. So if you take a look at this green zone, it's actually split up into about 500 separate rows. So what a row is if you just take a look at this block here and I were to extend out, if I were to extend it all the way up to the end of the green zone, that would be 1 row. So there are 500 of those. Each of these rows is merged into 10 layers. So this is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, all the way up to layer 10. So if you take a look at this little diagram here, you can kind of see what's going on. So let's call this row 1, row 2, and row 3. So row 1 is cloned over here, and then row 2 is also cloned over here. But instead of just cloning it above it, we can actually clone it 90 degrees the other way. And if we just repeat this process, we can completely rotate this axis here the other way round. So we can rotate it 90 degrees. Once all of the cloning is complete, what happens is the player is teleported to a room underneath this big area here. And then you receive the map. So let's give a demonstration of this. We'll be teleported to this room. And you can see that the map will then display what is in front of us. And that is all there is to it. Now there's one final thing I want to mention. So you'll notice there's also this red zone. Now the red zone isn't actually looking at what's there. So for instance, if I built something here, and I took a picture over there by the camera, the glowstone isn't actually going to be picked up, because it's not up until about 40 blocks, so this is about 40 blocks long, that it starts looking at what's there. And then that only lasts for 10 layers, and then anything behind it also won't be looked at. Now this can of course be increased. I just didn't include this zone in the example because I didn't feel it was necessary. But I thought this was a really cool idea, and I hope you do too.